I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Rick Weeks, known on the forums in the old days as SUP the Creek, but mostly YouTube now. It's just Rick Weeks, YouTube at Rick Weeks. How did I get into stand-up paddleboarding? It's an interesting story, very similar to so many other people. I've been a surfer all my life since I was 16 years old. I started in 1964. In my mid to late 50s, I was still surfing all the time. I was on my way back from a long surf trip when that happened. I was in great shape. Woman hit me at 60 miles an hour, and I spent the next 3 years on the couch, and I got really good at one thing, eating. I ballooned up to, I gain weight easily. I lose it hard, but gain it easily. I got up to 305 pounds. And when I was healthy enough to go back to surfing, doing the push-up on the boards, the pop-up, popped out both my rotator cuffs in one wave. So when the waves were small, I couldn't get up on a board. I needed a bigger wave for the board to drop down and I would be able to get up. But on small days, I never had any interest in stand-up. I'd see people on stand-up and I never thought anything bad about it. I just didn't understand why anybody would want to do it. I had friends who were really, really good on it, and I had no idea of why they would think about riding a stand-up paddleboard in the surf. But when I couldn't get up on these small waves one summer when it was perfect every day, I thought, well, you know, if I was on one of those, I'd be up already. I didn't know how I'd stand up, but I knew I'd be up already. So I went out and started, and here's where it gets interesting. I went to the local surf shop that sold SUPs. And I'd known the guy my whole life, and he looked at me being fat and stuff, and he said, you big fat guy, you take that big stupid fat board over there. That's what you ride, because you're a big stupid fat old guy. He knew I was a good surfer, but he treated me like crap. So I went online to find out what I could find out about stand-up. Nothing. There was nothing. If you could find an outline of like a pencil drawing, that was a lot in those days of a stand-up. There was no such thing as volume. They didn't talk, the boards were still narrow. So I decided I would just go out and find out the information on my own. So I went around to all the shops in New England that I could find that sold stand-up, and I found a board that would suit me. I was 285 pounds at that time. It was 36 inches wide, 11 feet 2, and it was 230 liters. So it was massive, big thick rails, but 36 inches wide. So I bought it. I paid, I'd never even been on a stand-up in my life, and I went out and bought full price board, bought a paddle, bought the leash, bought everything, right? I took it down to a river with my daughter, and I jumped on it and paddled. It was easy. It was 36 inches wide. So I looked at her. I said, all right, let's go. Let's go down to the SUP hole, and I'm going to go surfing, because it was 1 foot in pure glass and beautiful. So I went down there as a good surfer, paddled out into the lineup on my 11.2 by 36 inch wide board, and proceeded to fall down 100 times the first day. 100 times on a 36 inch wide board. It was, so my daughter was on the beach. She was laughing so hard she peed herself, I swear. I got one wave that day on my knees. I stood up and I got up and I felt like I was surfing on a barn door. I was like flabbergasted how big it was. The next day I got 3 waves, paddled in standing up. And the third day, I was just surfing on a stand-up. And it was, and you know what's the weirdest thing? I never had, since that day, I've never had any interest to get back on a regular surfboard and I surf serious everywhere. I surf Pipeline, I surf Sunset Beach 78 days one year. Been to Australia, France, Portugal, Thailand, Mexico, everywhere. I surfed in California. I've surfed all over the place. I dedicated my life to surfing, and all of a sudden I had no interest in being on a surfboard again. I freaking love surfing on a stand-up. I love paddling flat water on a stand-up. I've got 2 boards behind me. This one over here is the Ghost Up, and that one over there is the Shorty. That's a long board. It's 9.2, That's a short board, but it's for big waves. It's 9.2, and it's but that's for my big waves, like 17-second period swells, where I need some length and I need some paddle power to get into them. So it's taken off of my original design of the Ghost, which is great in small to medium-sized waves, and I needed a step up. I had Bert and I worked on this board, and we transitioned the Ghost design and narrowed the tail, a little more tail rocker, softened the rails at the tail, and created the Ghost up for bigger waves. The dirty little secret is it serves small waves really well as well. I'm in Florida now, that's all I'm surfing, so I'm loving the board. It's a stunning. So how did I become aware of Sunova? I'd been through probably 4 boards after my initial start with an 11.2 by 36 inch wide board, and now I was down to 9 6s, and I was down to 265 pounds, and I started looking for a board that was performance, because I'm a surfer. I've always been a pretty good surfer, so I wanted a board that would perform. And I found a video that Tiago Silva from Mauca Lodge put up in Portugal, and it was about another guy, a pro SUP surfer, and he was on the beach. He was a friend of Tiago's, and Tiago had a bunch of Sunovas out on the beach, and he had an 8.5 speed, and he said, "Hey, will you ride my 8.5 speed? I'd like to see how you do on it." And he filmed them, and he posted that video. And I looked at that film, and I swear, I broke it down frame by frame by frame. And I looked at how that guy was ripping on that board, and I said, now that's how I want to stand up to surf. So I looked for Sunova in the United States, and there really wasn't a presence in the United States. So I'd seen that Martin Janicki, Tino from Sunova, was on the Seabreeze forum, and I contacted him on Seabreeze, and I said, how do I get one of those boards? And he was, being Tino, he was kind of being a wise ass. He goes, well, sell 5 others to some other people. I'll bundle 6 of them up and I'll ship them over to you. It was just his way of getting rid of a pain in the ass kid, 70-year-old. So I texted him the next day, and I said, all right, I sold 5 other boards, ship them. And he goes, wait, what? You sold 5 boards in one night? How did you do that? He couldn't get recognized in the United States with Sunova. He goes, how did you do that? I said, I built up a following, and the people, it was the shortboard revolution in stand-up, and everybody, most of the guys in stand-up had some money, and they were all starved for new boards. So I called the guys that I knew would be interested. I said, I've got an unbelievable board I think you're going to like. And every single one of them said, sign me up. So Tino instantly sent my board over here, and I got what did I get? My first board was an 8.10 speed. And I knew it was going to take 3 months to get there. So I went out and practiced on all the smallest boards I could. And I lost some weight. And when the board came, I was ready for it. And I stood on it, surfed it, and it blew me away. It was so far and away better than all the boards I'd ever surfed before. The technology was beautiful. It was light. It felt supple under my feet. A Sunova has this soft bottom that when you're surfing on it, it just feels like you're surfing butter. I mean, it's so smooth and it's so snappy, so fast. So I was in, and so Tino goes, this could turn into more than you originally hoped for. And he said, do you want to go on tour with Sunova? And I said, absolutely. So he brought over 7 or 8 boards. We rented a minivan, and we drove from New York to Maine, then down to Florida, then back to New York. And we stopped, and everywhere we went, I had 25 people waiting there from the online forums. I told them I'm going to be in such and such on this date. They would all show up. A surf shop would show up instantly. We had dealers, we had buyers. And when Tino left, he left me all the boards. I go, what do you want me to do with them? He goes, ride them, film them, do your thing. So that was it. Just an amazing sort of symbiotic relationship created out of thin air between Tino and I and Sunova and SUP. It's been now it's been over 10 years, and it's been a beautiful relationship, and I completely, totally love this company. I love everything they stand for. I spent a month in Thailand. I went to the worldwide dealer meeting over there to introduce the Creek, my first model. I lived in the factory for a month. I surfed the breaks. There's breaks right behind the factory, about 2 miles through the jungle. There's beautiful breaks, this beautiful beach bar that Bert gave a whole bunch of boards to in the beginning, and they took this beachside bar and they ended up creating a surf shop out of it, and a rental and everything else. It created a whole business, and now surf is a big industry in Thailand. And Bert and Sunova and Tino had a lot to do with the beginning of surfing in Thailand. When I get a new board from Sunova, whether it's something that I helped design or it's one of their stock models, what do I look for? The first thing is I look for comfort. I mean, stand up to me is not standing up at your waist. It's not sunk to your waist or your knees. It's not. Stand up is comfortable, it's easy, it's fun. So after the comfort, then I look for a couple of things. I have pretty good waves where I live on Cape Cod, and occasionally it gets pretty good around where I am in Florida. The waves at home on Cape Cod are a little bit bigger, they're a little bit juicier. So I want a board that's very performance oriented. I want it snappy turns, I want it fast. I want it to cling to the wave face. I want it to snap cutbacks. I want to feel comfortable out in pretty big waves. Because we get overhead waves all the time there, and I want a board to rip in overhead waves. But then when I'm looking at a board and reviewing a board that is a review for the general public, I look for, because with my work on the forums and now through YouTube, I've contacted, a lot of people contacted me, thousands of people, thousands over the years have contacted me to help them pick a board out. And I fill out a spreadsheet on every single person. I take their height, their weight, their age, their physical abilities, where they live, what kind of waves they surf, what their conditions are, how choppy, where is it located? I keep stats on everything. They tell me what they want. And so I know when I'm reviewing a board, if I'm reviewing the Ghost Up or if I'm reviewing the Shorty, I'm going to tailor that review to tell people the truth. If this is right for overweight, out of shape person or fit ripper, I tell them exactly what I think. I don't worry about what everybody else thinks I should think. I tell them what I think the board's going to be for different people. My goal is always to get somebody on the right board. If you're on the right board, SUP surfing is a wonderful experience. If you're on a board that's miserable, it's going to be a miserable experience. So my goal is, if somebody's going to spend the money on a stand-up, I want them to get their money's worth, and I want them to get the performance and the comfort that they're looking for. That's my only goal. My only goal is I'm a buyer pimp. People go, are you a Sunova pimp? I go, no, I'm a buyer pimp. I've always been a buyer pimp. The only reason I have a following is because the information that I give to people is honest, accurate, and it's my opinion. And they know me. They know how much I weigh. They know how tall I am. They know how old I am. They know my surfing ability because I have hundreds of videos on YouTube. So they can take what they see and what I say, and they can evaluate if it's right for them. And then they contact me personally, and we go into the minutia details about if this is the right board for them or if this is the right board for them. That's my goal. Always my goal is to hook people up with the right board. One of the coolest things about stand-up is, in surfing in the late 60s, early 70s, I got to go through the shortboard revolution. It was exciting. It was freaking amazing. Every day you needed a new board. You know, it was like they were learning, like, how do you make boards shorter and how do they work? The wide tail, twin fins, narrow tail, single fins, triplanes, moon tails. It was exciting. We went through a ton of boards. Every board was a new and wonderful experiment. And in stand-up, I'm getting to go through that all over again. From the 2012 to now, we went through a shortboard revolution in stand-up where they went from big, narrow. They were long and narrow, like 11, 12 feet long, 29, 30 inches wide. And a few years in, they started getting wider and they could make them shorter. And they finally kind of found a happy place where boards are wide enough. They can make them short. They can make them with enough volume. They can make them turn really well, comfortable. So I think stand-up is in a very comfortable spot, sort of like when surfing got to the no-nose thruster in the 80s. All of a sudden, surfboard design stopped going, and it got to here, and now it just bangs back and forth inside that box. You know, you make a little square board, you make a rounder, you make a midlife crisis board, you make a long board, you make a short board, you make a Tomo design, you do all that stuff. Stand-up is in the same place now as surfing's been for the last 35 years. Stand-up's in a comfortable spot. So I think that the next big adventure in stand-up, the next big innovation in stand-up is going to be technology. The technology in these boards is unbelievable. When Bert designed this technology, he created Firewire surfboards. And Firewire surfboards, it was everybody in the world knows now Firewire surfboards. That's Bert's technology. Bert owns Sunova. He's a half owner of Sunova. He's the shaper, he's the designer, he's the guy with the tech. He's like a savant as far as like the chemistry of how all this stuff works and the design. He's amazing. So I think that, like right now with the airlines not allowing SUPs on them, Sunova's been into two-piece boards for 5 years and they've got it pretty well dialed in. That's a piece of technology that's going to be critical in the future if people want to do airplane travel to the Maldives or, you know, the Mentawais or Bali or something. They want to get on an airline and go a long way with a stand-up. They better have a two-piece board. Because it's not just about getting there on the first leg. You got to get back with that board. You don't know if the guy in the first place let you on, if you're ever going to get back with the board. Plus, you've got flights to change through. So, I think it's going to be technology. I can't begin to think of what that is, but I think that's where all the next big changes in stand-up are going to be on the tech side, not the shape side. Okay, my personal style in the water has always been, I started surfing in the 60s, but when I got into shortboards, I was living in Hawaii and stuff, Barry Kanaiapuni had the best, hardest, most solid carve of anybody I'd ever seen. And so I based my surf style off the Barry Kanaiapuni bottom turn. So he was committed nose to tail. The rail was buried in the water. His chest was flat on the water. His hands were on the water. He could carve and he never slid out. So a Barry Kanaiapuni bottom turn became my goal. Not that I ever could do a Barry Kanaiapuni bottom turn, but I'm a rail surfer. I'm not a pivot surfer, I'm a rail surfer. I like to carve a rail turn. I like surfers that carry speed through their turns, not the slashers, but the guys that carve, like the guys that carve like on an amusement park ride. Never going off the rails, always stuck down. Rail in, carrying speed from one turn to the next. When you do a cutback, I want you to do a cutback, come back, bounce off the whitewater, come around. I don't ever want to lose speed. My whole goal is to stay powered up through turns so that I can carry that speed down the line. If you have speed, you have power. Staying powered up is what I'd say. That's what I am. I want to stay powered up at all times because power gives you the ability to turn. You're in control when you're powered up. So carving and powered up is my style, and there has to be flow. I didn't like the way I was surfing when I was looking at my videos in Portugal. And I realized I need to put rhythm into my surfing. So I started putting a rhythm into my surfing. And all of a sudden, my surfing got much smoother, much better flow, much more interesting, much more fun for me to watch. And I know that if I expect people to watch my videos, they should be watchable. So the flow, I really work on the flow. I've always had such an amazing connection with Sunova. Tino and I became immediate fast friends when I went on tour with him. I spent a lot of time driving, 18-hour drives and meeting all these people. And we did the whole coast twice, and I've done it with him 3 times. So Tino and I got very close. So I was always very comfortable being dead straight honest with him. If there was anything I liked or didn't like about a board or Sunova or anything else, I'd just tell them. I'd tell everybody in Sunova. Whatever I think, I don't worry about if it's appropriate or not. I just tell them exactly what I think because I owned a business for 30 years and I didn't want somebody to kiss my ass. I wanted somebody to tell me the truth. If there was something wrong with what I was doing or something right about what I was doing, I wanted to know so I could either do more of it or change it. So I'm as honest and straightforward with Sunova as I can be at all times. And it makes it super easy because I don't have to mince words. I just tell them, here's what I like, here's what I don't like. And that's it. We have a great relationship and I love our connection. My connection to the SUP community is one of the most wonderful things in my life. Starting with my online forum work in 2012 till today, I've met hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people online, and a great many of those people have tripped through Florida or tripped through Boston or wherever I happen to be. I see them in Mexico, I see them in Thailand. I paddled out at a place all by myself in Portugal. I'm out there, I'd never been to the break, I'd never been anywhere near it. Nobody knew I was there. I paddled out, and about a half hour later, a kid paddles out, about a 28-year-old guy on a stand-up, and he goes, "Rick, I love your videos." And I go, "What's your name?" And he told me his screen name, and I remembered him because he comments on my videos, and we became friends right there. The SUP community is a wonderful, warm, generous, welcoming place. I almost never want for a place to stay. I don't care where I am. I could be in Uruguay, and there's guys down there that says, "I got a waterfront home. You could stay here as long as you like." The SUP community has treated me unbelievably well. And I have most of my friends came from the SUP community. It's a wonderful, caring, gracious, and supportive crew that has your back at all times. They've helped me out. They helped me work on my house. They helped me work on my van. I mean, they just whatever. They're always there for me, and I freaking love it. One of the most challenging aspects of SUP design, I don't have any challenges in that way. I just have ideas, and people ask me about things online and stuff, and I just simply go to Bert and I say, "Bert, how do we solve this? What do we do?" And he comes up with some ideas, and I look at them and I'll pick one or let him pick one. But there's no struggle in the design area. There's always something in my head that I want a board to do. My next board, every board, I want it to be a little bit different, I want something more out of it. You know, I've got boards that do pretty much everything. So when I come up with something where I'm missing, I want a board that will fill that void. I have one in my head right now. I want a glider. I don't know how you make a glider for stand-up. I'm starting to ride the shorty as a glider style. I'm slowing myself down and drawing the turns out a little bit more, and I'm trying to see if the shorty works as a really good glider for me. So yeah, I love the fact that I'm connected with a company that's willing. They don't make molds. They Bert shapes them, and then they put it on a CAD and they pump them out like a regular surfboard factory. They're all hand finished. They're all hand shaped at the end after they're cut on the CNC. So getting prototypes out to me is not a big deal. So we had a lot of models. We had a lot of models. We actually had to trim it down so shops didn't have to carry so many boards. But everybody likes something new, so we have to keep coming up with new ideas, which I don't find hard. I always have something I want next. Okay, this is for you people that are really interested in starting stand-up. There's a couple of things that I would tell you right off the bat. Number one is have a sense of humor, okay? You're gonna fall down. It's part of stand-up. I've been doing this for, 14 years, and I fall down 50 times a day. I tell people that climbing back up on my stand-up is my exercise program, because at 77, it is work climbing back onto my stand-up and getting back up again. Have a sense of humor. Picking your first board. Don't buy one right off the bat like I did. Rent one, borrow one, find one that's wide enough. Width is your friend. Length is not all that important. Width is your friend. Volume is not so critical. As long as the board's floating you and it's long enough, you're not on a little tiny shortboard. If you've got a decent amount of width, it's easier to stand up. When you first get on the board, start on your knees, paddle out a ways, learn how to paddle on your knees first. Learn what the board does, canoe paddle, switch the paddle back and forth. That teaches you how to switch the paddle back and forth. And it also, one of the most important things you need to know is when you want to stop or turn when you're on a paddleboard, back paddle. Just stick the paddle in on one side and it will just stop you and you will turn to whatever side your paddle's on, okay? Because you're learning how to paddle. You don't want to run into things. So just stick the paddle down, you will just stop. If you try to turn by paddling forward, the fins are designed to make the board go straight. So when you're going forward and you're trying to turn, it's very difficult to turn the board. Stick your paddle in, you turn in reverse. It's easier. Number 3 is don't stare at your feet. Look out at the horizon, look where you're going, and smile. Smile. When you smile, your entire body goes, if you're out there like this and you're like, oh yeah, and then you smile, your whole body just goes, yeah. It gets supple and loose. On the board after you've been on the board for 5 or 10 minutes on your knees, stand up, immediately put your paddle in the water. It's your third leg. Always hold that paddle in the water. And then just stick with it. Stick with it. After 2 or 3 days, it gets super easy and you will love it. Don't try to go right out in the lineup at first. Go flat water. Go in salt water, go in flat water where there's no boat wakes, no wind, no obstacles, where you've got space, where you've got privacy, and get to know your board before you ever enter the lineup. When you do decide to enter the ocean to learn how to surf, pick a small day, very, very flat, clean, glassy conditions. If you go out on a choppy day, you're not going to learn. You're just going to fall over and you're going to get frustrated and you're going to hate it. So give yourself a little time, wait for the conditions to be correct. Go out in a place where you're by yourself. It doesn't matter how good the waves are. You just want small waves, and it doesn't matter if they have shape or not. Don't go out to a good break and get in the middle of all those people. Go someplace all by yourself, and when you're taking off on a wave, when you go to paddle into a wave, think about a skater you know, they skate in the swimming pools. They go up to the deep end and they drop off and they go straight down. Just think about what would happen to them if they leaned back when they dropped off the deep end, smashed their head on the edge of the pool. When you go to take off on a stand-up, the hardest thing I did, the reason I never got a wave standing up my first day, I did not commit leaning in. You have to lean in. You gotta put your weight on your forward foot. You lean into it, and once you caught the wave, it's just surfing again. It's easy. So if you don't know how to surf, then you're going to have to learn how to do that as well. How do I stay interested in SUP after all these years? It's not even a question. I've been surfing since 1964, and I am as passionate about surfing today as I was in 1964. Imagine being with the same mate since, well, it's 61 years. Imagine being with the same person for 61 years, and you wake up every morning as passionate about them as you were when you were 16 years old. That same passion you had when you were 16, that's what I have for stand-up. To me, surfing in general and stand-up, it's soulful, it's sensual, and it's fulfilling. It's almost like a drug. I mean, I can't even qualify how good it makes you feel and how whole it makes me feel and how it's such a part of me that people go, "Are you going to foil?" I have no interest in foiling. I don't even really want to surf on a regular surfboard again. I love stand-up surfing every single day. It does not get old. I chase it every day of my life. It's a passion that is a gift to me in my life. This one's easy. SUP surfing in 3 words: sensual, soulful, and passion. It's sensual. Surfing to me has always been sensual. It's soulful. Whether you're paddling flat water or surfing, it fills your soul, and it's passion, just raw passion. My favorite board, my favorite Sunova model at the moment, it's actually 2. It's the Ghost and the Ghost Up. The Ghost Up is a big wave step-up board from the Ghost. Both boards, to me, are the same. One's for the small, medium waves, and one's for the juicier, bigger waves. And to me, they're the Ghosts. And by far and away, my favorite boards I've ever had. They're stunning. Each in their own right. They're different. They're each a little different, but they are both spectacular. What's the best place I've ever SUP surfed? If you know, you know. That's all I have to say about that. One piece of advice for every SUP surfer: learn the rules, okay? It's not etiquette. I don't know where they get all this crap, some little Disney video or something. There's rules. If you're going to surf and you're going to enter a lineup, there's rules. They're hard and fast, and they've been there forever, and nobody gives a crap about oh, it's etiquette. Oh, well, the third wave should be mine because I waited some. Nobody cares. When you go in the lineup, learn the rules, play by the rules. The rules are etched in stone. Number 1, the surfer on the wave is the only person that counts. Not the person paddling out, not the person sitting on the inside. Everybody in the lineup, it's their job to stay the hell out of the way of whoever is on that wave. And if you don't learn that, you're never going to be welcome in a lineup. Learn the rules. What makes Sunova stand out? If you only knew what I know. I've lived in the factory for a month. Sunova boards are made by the most skilled craftsmen you can ever imagine. The people sanding, the people glassing, the people shaping them out. They are so... The Sunova factory is filled with people that live the surf life. They live the beach life. In the front yard of the Sunova factory is a full skate park. They used to have a half pipe in the factory, but they needed space, so they built a skate park out on the front yard. They all skateboard around between stations. They live, eat, and breathe the beach life, the surf life. These are not factory workers stuck in the middle of China somewhere. These are passionate Thai people that surf really well, that love the beach life, that love life in general. They're just amazing people. They're wonderful, amazing people. And they make these boards. Bert's technology is state of the art, better than anybody's. Their boards are not built out of molds. They're built from a CNC machine, then hand sanded, hand finished, hand glassed, hand sanded. Everything is done. The artwork, it's there. The Sunova factory is like this little closed world of SUP and surfboard and foil passion. It's everybody in there is focused on the task of making the absolute best, most amazing boards that you can imagine. And why? Because they all use them. They're not factory workers going home in the middle of some place. They're people that go into their beach. A lot of these people live in these little tree houses that are like bamboo tree houses down by the ocean, right behind the Memories Bar, and they're there so they can surf every day when they're not in the factory. In the factory, they raise their own chickens, they raise their own organic vegetables, they have a healthy organic food court just for the factory workers. They treat their factory workers, they're not factory workers, they're friends, they're part of the surf community. Sunova is standalone. It's standalone. I mean, I've been there. I lived in the factory. I got up at 3 a.m, walked around. They're running 24/7. I'd walk around. I'd talk to people. I'd look at what they were doing. I'd see from a distance. I'd sneak up on them and watch them, and I'd see the dedication they had to perfection. It's absolutely stunning. Sunovas are born in paradise. It's a beautiful place with beautiful breaks. Beautiful, there's elephants in the area, there's jungle, there's surf breaks. It's a stunningly beautiful place. And that's where my Sunovas are born. And your Sunova is born. Sunova is a gift to the stand-up world. And not just the boards, but if you're gonna spend your money with somebody, you want it to go somebody like Sunova, where it gets distributed out to surfers and skaters and local people that are immersed in the same life that you are. I love Sunova. I do. It's absolutely stunning how much respect and love I have for Sunova. All right, let's go paddling. And that there is what it's all about.